Hi, everybody. I'm super excited. DeVika, thank you so much. I do this 5 times, about to be six and then seven. We're about to add two more lives. I'm super excited. And everybody's my favorite. So
You're a mess.
I'm a mess, but I love our conversations and I am super excited for today's. Go ahead and let us know, what are we talking about today?
For those of you who don't know me, my name is DeVika Lyles, and I am the owner of the Center for Transformative Sexology. And what we're talking about is my 7 sexological conversations. And we've gone through systems science and sexology, race, culture, and decolonization. We've gone through gender orientation and health and neurology. I probably got those out of order. And then we have the access, which we discussed last week, was economics, education, and equity. And today we're actually talking about trauma and transformation. And what's interesting to me as a sexologist is that most people only talk about like the sex part or the trauma part, and all those other pieces in between don't actually get actively discussed. And so you have a lot of people who like, they want to talk about trauma, and trauma gets to be this big, huge thing, but they don't ever talk about transformation, which includes all these other things. And we, uh, our industry, our field seems to juxtapose and position trauma like that's it, that's all there is. There's just sexual trauma, and then we don't talk about pleasure, we don't talk about any of that. And so this one I want to handle with a gilded spoon, because I don't want people to think that we're getting into a trauma conversation. We are discussing the context of trauma and the context of transformation. So when I'm usually dealing with people in my field and they're like, oh, I have a sexual trauma, or they want to sit and talk about sexual trauma, it's usually this very triggering, very upsetting, very graphic at times conversation that leaves a lot of people triggered or uncomfortable or something else, or questioning whether or not they can be part of the conversation because they don't have that kind of trauma. So today's conversation, I just want to delicately say to those who do have any of the traumas that feel like what I just said, they're big traumas, it's abuse, it's violation. I want you to know I am not at all negating that as a context. I am, however, broadening the context so that we can deal with trauma in a more leveraged way. Because when we have trauma be this big, scary, abusive thing, and that's all it ever gets to be, then if I don't feel that, I'm not traumatized. If I do feel that, I'm expected to meet my trauma a particular way. And there's no freedom inside of that, which leads to no transformation. So, for the context of this conversation, trauma is anything, big or small, that you did not want to happen, and it happened anyway. Or it's anything big or small that you wanted to happen and it didn't happen, or it didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen. So when I broaden that out, what becomes available for you? When I say it doesn't have to be abuse or any of that, it could just be I don't know, anything small that I didn't want to happen, that happened anyway, and or something I wanted to happen and it didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen, or it didn't happen at all. So what opens up when I kind of expand what trauma can be?
When we talk about trauma, it is like you said, it's that tricky situation. And before I say anything, I do want to let everybody know there's 3 people. Hi, Sophia. Thank you for saying hello. Anybody else that wants to be shouted out, let us know you're there. Just comment so we can shout you out.
A life that's got lives.
Yeah, we got people, we got bodies, we're growing. Trauma is a difficult situation because it forms your access, it forms your culture, it forms who you are as you are. And it's a mental trauma, a physical trauma. And like you said, there's a huge piece that sexuality that and people want to live in that sexuality piece of it. And there are so many different ones that are there. We have PTSD, we have I shattered my knee, and that's been trauma. You have so many levels of what that looks like and how it affects what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Um,
And I'm glad that you brought up your knee shattering. Some people wouldn't think that that's traumatic. It's traumatic. Okay. Um, Somebody wanting to flirt and some of our early traumas, we forget our early traumas, not that this happens anymore, mind the gray hair, but like, it's middle school, you're, there's a dance, you make your way, you say, do you want to dance to somebody? They say no. Your whole life is altered. You have now changed your system. I am never doing that again. Now, right? You've changed your system. You've changed everything. You changed your identity. Now you used to be the nice person, and instead of the nice person, you're going to be the aggressive person or whatever, right? That's a trauma. Trauma and transformation are similar. They are the front of the hand and the back of the hand. Because if there's something that I didn't want that happened, even though I didn't want it to happen, and or if there's something I wanted that didn't happen, or it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to happen, the only way to bring that to completion is through transformation. And one of the key pieces of my work is that we work through how to have that conversation no longer have you at the effect of that, right? Because there is nothing that's going to transform your knee. That knee is shattered. The one you had, you no longer have. The one you got, you're still trying it out, right? So for me to discuss transformation for somebody whose identity is shattered, who's somebody whose safety has been shattered, to somebody whose their confidence has been shattered, I'm not going to be able to repair it back to what it was before. But I can take you through the steps. I can guide you. I can give you the practices. I can be there when it hurts. I can be there when you fall. And then we can create something new. Yes, back in 5th grade, when you were in middle school and you walked across and you said hi, do you want to dance? And they said no, you changed your whole belief system. But you are also in middle school. So transformation will give you the access to transform that and look at that in a way so that you can be, oh, that did not go the way I wanted it to go. I got that. I got that that's what's so. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean that the world is unsafe. It means that did not go the way I wanted it to go. And yes, I am talking about the most traumatic things. That is how we start to transform them. You on that bike ride that cracked and shattered your kneecap, that is not the way you wanted that to go. So if we can just be with and deal with, there are things in our life, no matter how big, no matter how small, they just didn't go the way we wanted them to go. If we can start there, then we have the access to transformation. Again, I am not minimizing. I am not minimizing molestation or sexual abuse or physical abuse, but we have to start somewhere. And where we get to start is that did not go the way I wanted it to go, or there was something I wanted to happen that did not happen or did not happen the way that I wanted it to. And once we can be with that, we can complete that, we can really give up what we made it about ourselves, because that fifth grader made up about themselves, that it was about them, they stink, something like that. And for all we know, the one who said no was afraid that she couldn't dance. And we get to end those stories that disempower us, that ruin our confidence, that have us experience ourselves as anything other than whole, perfect, and complete. And the more that we are confident in our ability to just deal with what's so, to deal with that did not go the way I wanted it to go, or it went the way that it went, but the way that it went is not the way that I wanted it to go. When we can get there, we can start to transform our lives, have breakthroughs, and I mean like moment to moment breakthroughs with velocity. So it looked like you were going to say something, and I wanted to give you that opportunity. This is
you're good. I know this is your favorite. But when we think about that, and I was thinking about the lunch and learns, we used to have conversations around the trigger, because whatever the lunch and learn was, the topic would trigger something in somebody for some reason. And when you look at where does that trigger come from and what created this space for me, you're able to then recognize the triggers that happen daily.
mm-hmm.
For me, when I'm triggered, you can see it on my face. We cannot hide my face. But sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you don't know when you've triggered somebody. Somebody will just push through that trigger, and then they'll hit that trigger again, and they'll push through that trigger. Pushing through the trigger is not going to resolve the trigger. Recognizing, where did this come from? Why am I triggered? How can I overcome this? I am not who that person was that happened to. I am not where that space was when that happened. And we know my biggest trigger is people helping me. My hugest trigger. And so being able to recognize those spaces and understand, okay, I'm triggered. You're trying to help me. Are you helping me? Do I need the help? Should I take the help? Where am I? And figuring out the actual questions to get through the trigger is what is going to be that saving grace.
Yeah, and I love that you shared that, right? And I love that you shared that you shattered your knee, because I'm sure that one of the first questions people ask you are, when you're healed, are you going to go ride a bike again? Or are you going to walk your dog with are you going to put yourself in that situation again, right? And you might.
I'm going to. I told the doctor I was going to.
And people will look at you like you're nuts. But it's because you've been taking the time to look at what actually was the thing that led to the trauma. Not what did I do wrong? Not, oh, this dog is out to hurt me. Not that thing. You have to be able to sit back and say, okay, this horrific thing that happened to me, I did not want that to happen. The answer is not, well, I'll just never go out with my friends again, because then you're living in trauma. The answer is not, I'll never walk the dog with the bike and the thing again. That's not the answer. The answer is, it didn't go the way I wanted to go. or it went the way it went, and that's not exactly how I wanted it to go, making peace with that, and then putting in structures so that it can go the way you want it to go more often. And that is why I put trauma and transformation together, because transformation is permanent. It's a done deal. It's you don't have to fix it anymore. Trauma, you actually have to keep recreating that. And the only reason why we recreate trauma is because our life wants us to have as many opportunities to transform it as possible. So,
I love that. I think that's amazing. Thank you so much, DeVika, for just being here and giving us the 7 sexological conversations. Like I said, it's Newton's law. If you don't know it,
so
figure it out. But thank you so much, DeVika. Everybody, if you have a trauma or you are looking at a transformation, and sometimes we're in the middle of transforming and just can't get over the hump. And trust me, I've been working with DeVika for 10 years and I still won't let people help me. But that's not her problem. That's my problem because she's given me all the tools. And in the past year, actually the past 2 years, I have used and gotten so much help, more help than I have ever had in my life. And so it's been great. And it's not just because I shattered my knee before that. But the tools are there. So if you need something and it takes you a long time to figure it out, give DeVika a call. Reach out to me if you need anything. Over there are our QR codes. So I'm super excited. Meet with us. Go watch some of our other videos. If you don't know what the 7 sexological conversations are, they're all in the YouTube channel. We will see you all later.